everyone. Happy Saturday. This is Nitha Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show. This is episode 756. I'm joined by a special guest. His name is Billy Jaffe. He's a hockey reporter out of Boston. He covers Boston Bruins. And he's part of the NESN network. So I'm really looking forward to this interview. But not only he covers hockey, he used to play hockey back in the day. So we're going to talk about his playing career real quick and obviously covering the Bruins. But first of all, how are you and your family doing so far during the sub situation?
We're good. We're good. It's like everybody else. I mean, I think it's easy to say, hard to do. You try and make the best of a crappy situation. But we're trying to find, as much good times as possible and trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully. But the problem is you don't know, right? You just don't know. So we're doing all right. Kids are, we've got, 13 and an 11-year-old and keeping them as busy as possible and still coaching a little hockey here and there for now. And lacrosse is starting in the spring. Well, here in Boston, we just had snow yesterday of a couple of inches. So that was awful, but it looks to be getting better in the next week. So hopefully we're all heading to some, at least soon, brighter days.
Yeah, that's good. So I want to ask you, while you're growing up, obviously you played some hockey back in the day, but when did you start getting interested in hockey and covering sports? But first, did you get to play any other sports before playing hockey?
Well, I played every sport possible. Love sports. My life was sports. That was it. I loved hockey from the age of about 2 on, I'm told, where I would sit in front of the television and get mesmerized by what I watched, what I saw. I started skating at about 3 to 3.5. I didn't really start playing hockey until I was about 4.5. Hated it the first time because it hurt my ankles beyond belief. Hockey skates versus, I think I wore figure skates or double runners, when I was like 4 or 3. And anyways, my dad told me to get back out there and to keep going, and I did. And I loved it. I was pretty bad. I can tell you, my 5-year-old going in 6-year-old years, but then all of a sudden at six turning, the 6-year-old year turning 7, something clicked. It just worked. And the next thing you know, it was like, wow. And anyways, I just went on and loved hockey and have, I wouldn't, it's been when I say my life, it's always been my passion. I love playing baseball. Really enjoyed playing basketball. Love playing golf. Most hockey players do, right?
Yeah.
I've played, football. Actually, I never played organized football because I was always so busy with hockey. But I played a lot of organized baseball, and I played a lot of golf. Played some soccer. Played every sport possible that I could get my hands or feet on. I love to do, and it's still. I still love playing hockey when I can nowadays. When I can, but from a career perspective, I played up till college for a bit. Very, very little. I didn't play after. I played a few games with the low-level minor league team. That was it. But overall, I just love it. I just love being on the ice. It's just phenomenal for me.
So did you have a player that you looked up like as a role model in the NHL growing up, or in any other sport?
Well, I have about role model because I didn't really know about them at the time, but my favorite player as a youngster was a guy by the name of Peter McNabb, who played for the Boston Bruins mostly, wore number 8. I happen to wear number 8. And so he just became my favorite. Now, I didn't grow up in Boston, mind you. I grew up in Chicago, and there were some good Chicago Blackhawks at the time, some really good, but I liked the Blackhawks. I loved the Bruins, loved them because my maternal side was all from Boston.
Right.
And in particular, my grandmother, who I was very, very close with. And my Nana and I would talk once a week. It wasn't like you guys are all used to having your cell phones and talking, 100 times a day and texting, or actually you guys don't call any, nobody calls, everybody texts now. Or DMs or whatever, ping me, we used to do a thing called calling each other. We used to pick up the phone, a landline, and call each other. So anyways, I called her, and every Sunday, and we would have these long conversations about sports, in particular Boston sports. And I just love the Bruins, love the Celts, the Pats, right? The Red Sox, those teams. I just fell in love with them because of her love for it too. So Peter McNabb just became my favorite. Now, I loved other players that were there too. I loved Terry O'Reilly and, Wayne Cashman and Gilles Gilbert, who was a goalie for them. But Peter McNabb, my favorite. And other sports, I loved Carl Yastrzemski. Loved him with the Red Sox. And he was also number 8 too, but now he was this all-world player, all everything, Hall of Famer, everything, Triple Crown in '67 and stuff. So I loved him too. But the common denominator is that they both were number 8.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, what were you like as a hockey player, and what was it like? Take me back to experience as a player, and did you ever think that you can get into the NHL as a player too?
I'll start with your second one first. Sure, you hope, you think, you don't really know when, especially you're that, call it high school ages, the 14 to 17, and you're still really pretty good in your world. And, we used to travel 14, 15, 16. I used to travel all over North America playing. Chicago was a very good hockey market. It's great now. But because I was on certain, there were 2 or 3 AAA organizations. They're the high-level organizations. We had to travel a lot, whether it was to Detroit to play in a league there because they had a lot of good teams, or we would end up going, literally one year, I think I was 15 years old. I think we took 13 or 14 trips between Detroit, probably multiple 6, 7 times, Buffalo, Calgary, the Boston area. We went all over. And, you do well, you think, holy smokes, maybe I'm pretty good. And then you realize as you get even a little older that there's a lot of unbelievable players out there. Yeah. When I got to college, and I was recruited by a nice handful of schools, you have that moment where you realize you're like, okay, maybe I'm not that good, but I got a lot of work to do. And I went to Michigan, and I enjoyed it, and I played a couple of years there, and I wasn't great. I wasn't as good. And that was okay. And, my experience, I don't regret going there at all. Loved Michigan. But, if I'd gone to a different school, you can play the shoulda, coulda, woulda game. Maybe I would have developed differently, played more, etc. I don't know. I don't live in the past. You know what I mean? But there was a time when you're 14, 15, and you're hearing about, guys, scouts are looking at you and they want to talk to you, and you're 16 and stuff. That's neat, right? The reality is they talk to everybody. They look at everybody. Yep. And that's why they take so many players in every sport, because they need a lot of players, because so few end up being good enough to forget to make it, to even be considered to make it when it's all said and done.
Yeah. So now, obviously, when you were playing in Michigan, did you get to cover at the same time, like, because you were obviously became a reporter too. So when you were at Michigan, did you get to cover any games while as a player? Or?
Just one. I think I did one game. I didn't have any aspiration to go into being a hockey analyst broadcaster. Oh, okay. I had none. I thought maybe I'd play. And then when I was done playing, I actually was given an opportunity while still in college to be a college hockey official. And I officiated for a couple of years, and they talked to me, hey, would you be interested in going to the National League camp maybe to start developing that? And I'm like, I enjoy officiating. I really did. But I'm like, I don't know if I'd really want to do that. I'm not sure. So point is, I wasn't thinking about ever going into broadcasting. Not at all. Now, I did a game on radio my senior year, I believe. I was done playing. I was still at Michigan. I didn't transfer. I thought about it, but I didn't. I stayed there, got a great education, and tried to make the most of it. And they offered me an opportunity to do one of the games at Joe Louis Arena, Michigan State, and it was fun. And it actually turns out the play-by-play guy doing the game, who I knew decently. We were nice acquaintances at college. There's a guy by the name of Judd Surratt. Well, fast forward, I'm going to say, so let's say I was 20 or 21 then. Fast forward to when I was 28, 29, living in Chicago, when I fell into broadcasting. I fell into it, ass backwards, given an opportunity. One of the places where I was given an opportunity was with the Chicago Wolves. And who was the play-by-play guy? Judd Surratt.
Wow.
So we already had that connection. And then fast forward many years later, after Judd and I became dear best of friends, I'm working with the NESN group for the Boston Bruins games, and the Bruins need a new radio announcer, play-by-play guy, and it becomes Judd Surratt. So there's a long connection from there. Long story, but worth telling because we've remained dear best friends. And now he's in Boston with his family doing his thing on the radio while I do my thing on TV.
Oh, that's amazing. So obviously in this industry, in the sports industry, is always important to have connections and networking. So for you, how grateful are you to have a type of person like Judge and to have the long-term connection? Also, take me back to your process, the step-by-step process you took to become where you're at today as a reporter.
Well, it's too long of a story, but I'll give you the Cliff Note, real short version of it. I was given an opportunity to broadcast in 1997. Chicago Blackhawks radio network needed an analyst. And that's really what I am. I'm a hockey analyst more than anything, and not to get it caught up in the semantics, the verbiage of it, whatever. I'm a broadcaster. I can host. I have hosted before. I don't do it much, but I've reported. Now, when I say I still report, like I do a lot of stuff for the NHL Network, and I do a lot of stuff for the NHL Radio Network in the last dozen years or so. And there, I'm either between the benches or I'm doing ringside or everything. So I pride myself on being able to do everything and anything thrown at me. And I think that's a huge thing that you have to be able to do in this business to survive. Not being a former NHLer, I have a chip on my shoulder because I have a mark against me. Yeah. Like I'm the only, I was the only dummy, to think once I fell into broadcasting, given an opportunity to be a hockey analyst. Sure, I can be a hockey analyst, but I never played in the league. But I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to work harder.
Right.
I'm going to bring a different approach to it. And I had no idea, none, what that meant. And it's gotten me a lot of jobs, that approach. And it's also lost me some jobs too. There was one opportunity, or not one opportunity, there was one gig that I had for many years, a national job, when they changed people in charge. The guy that came in charge said, well, I like you a lot. You do a nice job, but if I had, my choice, I'm going to use this guy over you because they played or coached in the league.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Okay. Well, I can't argue that point.
Right.
I think I'm talented and as capable as them. But if that's what you need, what am I going to say?
Mm-hmm.
You're wrong. Well, what do I didn't play one game in the NHL. I can't deny that. So anyways, I was given this opportunity in 97 to be a part of the Chicago Blackhawks radio network. One thing led to another. That year, the following year, things took off quickly. I did a lot of radio for them. I did radio and TV for the Wolves, another, pro team in town. I fell into a few college games for Fox Sports Detroit because I'd played at Michigan. So that was a natural. And then a year later, after doing the Blackhawks stuff for 2 years and doing a bunch of other stuff, I was given an opportunity to do the Wolves full time in addition to Fox Sports Detroit, doing the game of the week there. And so I did all that. And then the next thing you know, the following year, I was offered a job at the Atlanta Thrashers, did their radio color and their TV. I was part of their TV pregame, intermission, postgame, and all their features. And things kept snowballing. And then I was given a national opportunity with, well, I was at Atlanta with an old network called OLN. I don't know if you're familiar. It became Versus.
Mm-hmm.
The NHL, believe it or not, used to be on a network called the Outdoor Life Network, believe it or not, for a year. And then they changed their name to Versus. So I was given an opportunity to be part of the national broadcast there, in addition to Atlanta. Then I went to New York and became the TV voice for the New York Islanders, the analyst for 4 years.
Wow.
Doing a lot of national stuff, NHL Network, Versus, etc. Versus was merged or sold with Comcast, which owned NBC, became NBC Sports. NBC Sports told me that they were the people that told me after I worked for them for a year while I finished out my contract that, you know, thank you, but no thank you anymore. My contract expired, so they didn't rehire me. But then I started working deals. I got hired by NESN, you know, to do their analysis as part of their, you know, their whole studio and college hockey. And I kept doing New York shows, and I've been all over, man. It's been great. Now I'm, you know, currently NHL Network, NESN, and other stuff too, here and there. A lot, you know, I do a lot of local radio. I've started and owned our own podcast now too. Have a wonderful show with Andrew Raycroft, former goalie for the Bruins. It's called The Morning Brew, BRU, with Jaffe and Razor. And anyways, if you're going to go into this business, you better be able to do it all. If you're a one-trick pony, you won't probably have a real short career.
That's why you're the one of the best in the business.
Well, I appreciate it, but that's all. Man, you know what it is, man? It's like wine.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I'm no wine aficionado, but I can tell you what I like and what I don't like. And some people are going to love you. I always say this, and I tell this to young broadcasters: there's a spectrum. Okay. So I don't know if this is I know it's visual, but I don't know if people get in podcast form too or not. So if they are, my hands are far apart in a spectrum.
Yeah.
And on the one side is unconditional love, like maternal unconditional love. You can never do any wrong, right? And on the other side of the spectrum is unconditional hate, vitriol. I can't stand you no matter what you say, how you look, etc. Right? I call those both irrational because neither are good. But if you're a broadcaster and in the middle is good to really good, meaning like, really like, if you're in the I really like and really respect area over here, for more people than not, you're doing a good job, because you're never going to please everybody, especially when you're doing a local team. People always, they're going to end up saying, well, geez, you're a homer.
Right.
And that's a bunch of BS, but you definitely, at least for me, but you definitely you favor your team because that's who you're talking with. But that doesn't mean you're ignorant or blind, that they're not flawed or they don't make mistakes, or sometimes they're just flat out wrong, meaning it's okay for a penalty to be called against the Bruins if they deserve it. It's fine.
So this is a two-part question here. So obviously, what's your experience like working at NESN? What's it like just being with those amazing coworkers that you have at NESN? And also, what's it like covering this Boston Bruins team? And obviously, they compete every year, and they're competing this year too. So what's it like just being with NESN and covering this Boston Bruins team?
I'm still waiting for those awesome coworkers you're asking about. I don't know. I work with fantastic people that we laugh, we disagree, which is so important to having a good show. We work hard and we have fun. Whether it's Dale Arnold, Barry Peterson, Andrew Raycroft, guys that I do all the games with, I'm fortunate. My deal, I work every Bruins game that I can, and this year I'm working every one. The other two guys work in and out, but they're awesome, both former Bruins, and we have amazing chemistry. And Dale, works his ass off too as the host, making sure to keep us in line and get us from point A to point B. So to work with them is really we always say this at the beginning and end of each season, and it's not hokey, it's real. We genuinely are lucky because we enjoy each other, because we respect each other, but everybody works hard. And I think that's part of the respect factor. Everybody works hard, does their thing. And because of that, I like to think we have a damn good show.
Yeah.
And we're honest. That's it. Boston is an amazing market. So to work for NESN or to work with NESN for the Bruins games, And the Bruins have been nothing but gold too, because there have been times that we've all, I've been very blunt about things, and other guys on our show have been very honest. Nobody has said a word to us ever. Like, oh, don't say it. Because there are other teams that do that. Can't cross the line, so to speak. I mean, you never attack anybody, insult anybody. You never do that. But it's okay to be honest and say, that guy's got to work harder. That's not acceptable. That's not, that is not this, in my opinion, this guy isn't doing enough. And nobody has ever said a word. Because you know what? Boston is a phenomenal market. So you ask what it's like to cover a team. Well, the sports fans in Boston are hardcore, devout fans that expect you to be fair, but expect you more than anything to be honest. And so this Bruins team, when they're giving an honest effort, they are darn good. They're regularly in the, of course they're going to miss the playoffs every once in a while, but they're battling and the expectations are high. So I have two sayings. One, if the players are going to play hard, I better work hard. All right. Two, like same thing. Like fans deserve that. The other thing is, if I'm not having fun doing my job, which is sitting on air talking about hockey, then shame on me. There's a lot harder things to do out there.
Like same thing here. I'm from Jersey, and I'm a New York. I'm all New York fans, but except for the football, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan here in Jersey. But we have hardcore fans here in Jersey and New York. Same thing in Boston. These are, I think, my opinion, LA, Boston, and New York are the three biggest markets in sports.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you about something. All right. And here's why. And I'm not saying that Jersey and New York isn't a phenomenal sports market. And same thing with LA. I'm going to tell you now, I'm biased, but I'm going to tell you, I think Boston and Chicago are the truest, deepest sports hardcore markets. And here's why. We don't have multiple teams in those markets. In New York, in New Jersey, it's 9 professional teams. Is it more now? I mean,
I think it's 9. No, 9. I think it's 9.
9 of the baseball, football, basketball, hockey, right? And not to disrespect the soccers and stuff. I'm just saying, because it's important.
Yeah.
Look, I get sports. The sport I love more than anything is the smallest of the big four. I get it. So I don't disparage any sport. This is what I always say about sport. If you find a sport that you love so much for those hour or 2 hours that you forget about the rest of the world and the crap that's going on, then you found it. I don't care what sport it is. I don't care if it's pickleball or football. If you find it, awesome. So anyways, I just think in New York and in LA, it's so spread out geographically, but also it's so spread out with you have all these different choices for teams. And while it's very passionate, it's not like the hard all for one for all New York or Boston and Chicago. And I've lived in both those markets. I'm not saying it's better. I'm saying it's different and even more. So the Boston people, I mean, holy smokes, they have really been amazing to work with since I started doing Bruins games part-time back in the 2011-12 season. They've embraced me, and I love them. And half my mom's or my side is my family's from here. So half of me feels like I'm a Bostonian, and now I'm full-time, and I absolutely love it.
So now I want to get to the Bruins team. Obviously, last year we all went through a struggle with the pandemic when the sport shut down, and obviously every team showed adversity. So, but for you, what's it like just seeing this team grow and compete every year? And what have you guys learned as a whole team when the sport shut down and learning new things? And obviously this year I got you on a good time because the playoffs are coming up soon in hockey. So what's it like just seeing this team grow, and what are you guys looking forward to when playoff time comes?
Well, your first question is, last year going into the pandemic stoppage, which was March 13th, I think, 12th or 13th, Bruins were the number 1 team in the NHL.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you they were going to win the cup, but they sure as heck were going to challenge. I mean, they were going to. They came into the bubble and were a different team. There was just you could tell the field it was different. They had lost that momentum. They had lost some of their vibe. Tampa, in the meantime, came into the bubble, and it was just like perfect timing. And they were dominant. They were absolutely dominant and better than the Bruins, and they beat them in their series. So you learn that, you know, I mean, it was really, I mean, it was two different seasons completely last year. With that said, I thought this year coming into this abbreviated 56 game season, I said publicly, I think the Bruins are going to be good to very good. I think they're going to battle for the playoffs. I don't think that they're a number 1 or 2 in the East. I thought they were a 3 or a 4. I'm not saying that because that's where they are right now. That's what I firmly believed. I mean, I just thought I thought they'd make the playoffs, but that they would be a 3 seed, maybe a 4. And the reason I felt that is because this is a team that's got a few guys that are a little older, that have been through an awful lot, whether it's Bergeron, Marchand, Rask, Krejci. And I think they saw the importance of the regular season being good, but not the end all be all. And I thought if they could just get into the playoffs and get themselves healthy, that something could happen, right? Something good could happen. And I still believe it. Now, they've had 3 great additions to the team 6 days ago now, or actually 5 days ago as we sit here and talk, where they brought in Taylor Hall, Curtis Lazar, and Mike Riley. So that's what I'm looking forward most to this team is seeing them gel, seeing them grow, hopefully get healthy on the back end. Hopefully they're still missing Brandon Carlo, Kevin Miller, and potentially Matt Grzelcyk. I mean, Grzelcyk is close to coming back. I don't know when he'll play next. It should be in the next couple of days. But the other 2 are out for a while. So anyway, if this team can get healthy and they continue to gel, why not now? Especially if Tuukka Rask is healthy, this team, you then look at him, you're like, okay, they can play literally with any team in this division and beat them. So that's what I look forward to.
Taylor Hall, speaking of Taylor Hall, he's a huge pickup for you guys. He's a heck of a player. He's still young and growing, but Taylor Hall, man, he can help you guys in a deep playoff run. That's a huge pickup. And but I want to ask you about one player. Obviously, you just mentioned those players, but I want to ask you about Rask, Tuukka Rask, obviously one of the veterans there. And he, to be honest, he's like Tom Brady when he was with the Patriots, like David Ortiz, like Paul Pierce. What do you think of a guy like Tuukka Rask, and what has he meant to the city of Boston, especially to the Bruins, and what's it like covering him?
I love Tuukka. I'm a big Tuukka fan. What I will tell you about Tuukka is that he was the number 2 polarizing sports figure in Boston. It was love him or don't like him at all, right? But while David Price was here, Price was the most polarizing figure. When he left, Tuukka Rask probably became the most polarizing or controversial type figure. I'm a huge believer in Tuukka. I do. He's, to me, I like the guy. 300 career wins, all-time Bruins goaltending win leader. Tuukka hasn't won the cup. He's played in 2, lost to Chicago 6 games, lost to St. Louis in 7 games. Especially the St. Louis series, they don't get to game 7. They don't get even past round 2 if it wasn't for Tuukka Rask in that 2019 Cup run. But he has that going, I don't want to say against, well, in some people's eyes, against him. In others, it's like, well, geez, team would never have gotten there even without him. I like covering Tuukka because of his honesty, his charisma. I mean, he's very publicly, well, I gave up a goal. Okay. But he burns fire inside. He's intense. This is the thing I always do. You ever talk to players, former players, and they tell you, you ask them, what do they miss the most? And usually the answer is hanging out with the guys, sitting in the room, having a conversation, BSing on the plane, on the bus, whatever. That's what I miss. That interpersonal relationship of that guy that you just can't get anywhere else than the room, the bus, the flight, the hotel, et cetera, right? I've never sat in the room with Tuukka But I can tell you the guys that have sat in the room with him, you know, getting ready for practice or going into battle in a game, have all said that they love him. So that to me is the great indication of what kind of a guy that he is. That they want to go to battle with him, and I just like covering him. I do, because you know, when I get a chance to sit down and talk with him, whatever. I mean, he's Tuukka, man. You know, sometimes he may not always help himself with some of his post-game answers where it's, I mean, he's brutally honest.
Right.
And again, it's very matter of fact sometimes. And I just don't think some people understand that. I happen to like it because I think he's being Tuukka. So I'm a big fan of his.
So a couple more things here before I let you go. Obviously, as a player, have you been involved in any hockey fights? And what was your most memorable hockey fight you've been part of at watching the Bruins?
Watching the Bruins, well, yeah. I mean, there were a few times Zdeno Chara, people were willing to challenge Z, and at 6'9", 255 pounds, it's just mind-boggling to me, because Zdeno, you want to talk about fun guys to cover? I really enjoy him too. Now he's not with the Bruins anymore, but what a Renaissance type guy. 6, 7 different languages he speaks, and his physical fitness is off the charts, man. And his dedication, his discipline it's really awe-inspiring, and it's also intimidating. You know, I would go to him for advice on, like, you know, vitamins and supplements and stuff. I'd be like, hey man, my knees are killing me. He'd be like, hey, do this, 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 and this. And that he knew everything, and his dedication to his diet. And all, sorry, I'm getting off topic here, but he's just phenomenal dude to cover.
Wow.
But guys would scrap with him every once in a while, or he would actually seek it out. If he went to seek it out, it was because something needed to be done. And he would make a statement, and he would make guys that were 6'4", 6'5" look tiny. Tiny.
Wow.
But the guy that comes to mind, I mean, Sean Thornton, an amazing scrapper for the Bruins. The guy that I really, really, and I enjoy him too, but the guy that I loved was Adam Mcquaid. Adam Mcquaid was the silent assassin. And so he would be the kindest, sweetest guy off the ice, but if you got into anything on the ice and Mac needed to go, it was like, watch out. And I remember one time, you know, don't get me wrong, I enjoy a hockey fight. I do. I wasn't a great fighter in my day, and not having played much pro, you don't fight. You know, the college you fought, you get out. I got some fights in juniors, or it was called, youth hockey, midgets and stuff. But I couldn't fight at prep school, because then I finished up my high school in Connecticut. You get kicked out at least for a game or two. College would be the same thing. We got into a little bit in college, but I didn't scrap. I actually grabbed onto somebody in one bench clearing brawl against Michigan State. But not everybody, 2 or 3 guys were fighting. The rest of us were watching. But the pro game is where you get more of the opportunity to fight. But Adam Mcquaid, scary fighter. He one time caught Matt Martin, who was another favorite of mine, who I got to know very well with the New York Islanders organization. And he caught him with a right that was just, devastating, and put him out for a while. But that's going to happen. You ask those guys, going into hockey, you could get your ass kicked, and you could kick somebody's butt, and you got to get up, whether it's in a fight or a hit. I mean, a body check or something. It's part of the game. The violence is part of something that attracts so many people to the sport. And I'm not talking just the fighting.
Right.
I'm talking about the heavy hits and the intensity and that's controlled violence, like illegal violence, so to speak.
So a couple more things. So if obviously, like you said, if everyone is healthy and everybody's clicking on all cylinders, do you expect the Boston Bruins to make a deep playoff run and potentially be in the Stanley Cup Finals this year?
I would like to say that it's a lame answer, but they definitely have a chance. And I'm not going to sit here and predict that they're going to make it to the Cup final, because I used to say between now and then, there's a lot could happen. Between now and tomorrow, if we learned anything during this godforsaken, awful pandemic mess, it's between now and tomorrow, anything can happen, right? I mean, full teams are getting shut down in a matter of minutes. Vancouver Canucks had the awful variant run through their team. And while they were an average team, not a great team, I mean, they're guys, these are professional athletes that are struggling with their conditioning coming back. So God forbid, I don't even want to say the Bruins, but any other team gets, who knows what's going to happen? Right. Who knows? If they're healthy, and I'm talking all the big boys are healthy. Yeah. Yes, they have a legitimate chance to get out of their division, to make it to the Final Four. They do. They've played well against Washington this year. Take out the 8-1 loss a week ago. That was awful. It wasn't intentional. It was bad scheduling, tons of injuries. And the Caps had lost to the Bruins before and said, we got to run it up, show them up. Well, Caps have handled the Penguins. The Bruins have done fine against the Penguins and against the Caps. And they've done well against now their last 2 wins have been against the New York Islanders. So, before they had winless in 5, now they've beaten them convincingly the last 2 games. So why can't the Bruins, do something? Right. The Islanders are good. The Caps are good. The Penguins are good, but the Bruins are good too. But yeah, they're going to have to stay healthy.
Yeah. So last 3 things, we partnered up, our team actually partnered up with 2 companies. I'll send you the links to both of them so you can check it out if you guys are interested. And the promo code is NR20 for both. We're just trying to help them promote their companies while we get more traffic for the show. So I'll send you the links, both of them, so you can check it out. And then we're also partnered up with the Hugh Jackson Foundation. Obviously, he's a former NFL coach. Actually, he just got a coaching job with Eddie George on his staff at Tennessee State. So I'll send you that foundation. We're trying to help prevent human trafficking and making sure the community stays safe and make sure the kids make the right choices in their lives. So I'm going to send you that foundation. And last thing here, would you like to say anything to other nurses, doctors, and essential workers right now?
I always like to say thank you for doing something that not many people are able to do. We need people like that put themselves above and beyond and selflessly into harm's way. And I try to give back wherever I can with people like that who do things that, I mean, I like to consider myself a strong person, but I don't think I could do what they're doing. I just don't think I could. I mean, if I had to, I think I'd like to have faith that I would step up, but they chose to do that. And I can't tell you the respect that I have for all of them. Thank you very much. We have a camp, an adult hockey camp coming up here in Boston called for the Heroes Cup, which is all first responders, military, fire, police, everything. And so we're doing a hockey camp for them at Warrior Ice Arena in a few weeks. And then they've got their huge event for the Heroes Cup. And so that's if I can give back, helping out, putting that together, providing them with a couple of great days of hockey, that's my way to say thank you. And that, I would love to be able to do something like that who knows, maybe one day for those people, the nurses, the doctors, the EMTs, everybody you're talking about. So a huge thank you to them for doing things that not many people can do.
Yeah, that's amazing what you guys are doing there, and well said. And there it is. That wraps up episode 756 for the NR Hour Sports Show with hockey reporter from NESN who covers the Boston Bruins, Billy Jaffe. Thank you again for coming on the show. It's truly an honor. And like I said, we would like to have you back so you can meet the other members of the team. But keep up the great work. Good luck to the Bruins for the rest of the way, and you and your family stay safe.
Thank you. Same to you.
No problem.